Los que mueren por la vida no pueden llamarse muertos. Y a partir de este momento es prohibido llorarlos.
No me pongan en lo oscuro a morir como un traidor. No me pongan en lo oscuro a morir como un traidor. Yo soy bueno y como bueno moriré de cara al sol.
Guantanamera,
Guajira,
Guajira, Guantanamera,
venceremos.
Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera.
For people in the social movements, people in the left, there's a huge gap now that the Comandante Chavez is gone, but his legacy will continue. And I guess that's why we're here. We came together tonight, to mourn and to remember compañero Comandante Hugo Chavez Frias. But more than that, we're here to honor his legacy. I'm just gonna speak for a moment, really. Just had a little note. I tried to write as much as I could, but we had a little bit of things to do. But then Mari Franz Arismendi will have some words. Bernie Hammond has some words. And we hope that this is a more of a personal moment for all of us, as opposed to a gathering to commemorate. This is also a personal moment for us to think and reflect on the work that Hugo Chavez has done for Venezuela, for Latin America, for the Global South, but as a matter of fact, for all the world. So maybe if folks are okay with it and want to share some thoughts of what you know about the Bolivarian Revolution, about Hugo Chavez and how he or the revolution, the movement, has actually contributed to your own or your collective approach towards justice and for a better world. So I want to begin with a quote from Don Quixote, which is the classic work from Miguel de Cervantes Saavedra. In the story of Don Quixote, as some of you or most of you hopefully would know, Sancho Panza, who is Don Quixote's right-hand man, questions Don Quixote's sanity as a futile attempt to change the world. And then Don Quixote responds by telling him, my friend Sancho, to change the world, friend Sancho, is not madness nor utopia. It's justice. Many of you have heard people in the media call Hugo Chavez a madman, someone who's crazy, a populist, a dictator. They try to argue that in his madness he destroyed Venezuela. But we gotta question that. Did he? Is it really madness to cut down poverty in half? Is it really madness to cut down extreme poverty by 3/4? Or to alphabetize the majority of the country? Is it really madness to fight for a more equal Venezuela and to fight for a united Latin America? No, not at all. To try to change an unequal world is not madness. Instead, it is like Don Quixote said, justice. So for those of us who are gathered tonight, we should think back on those words of Don Quixote and believe that, like Hugo Chavez, we need to change the world. And we need to continue his legacy. And for that reason, I think that we should work together to continue the legacy of the Bolivarian Revolution, of a united Latin America, of a more equal world, and continue to always remember Hugo Chavez as a leader for many generations. Thank you.
My name is Mari Franz Arismendi, and I've been working with Juan Diego and Alfredo, Joaquin, and Victor Cacha, and few other Latin American compañeros and Mr. Bernie Hammond, who's a friend of Latin America and has always been in solidarity with all the progressive movements in Latin America. So our group is called La Casa, and we're happy to be here tonight. We're happy and we're sad to be here tonight, and but I'm really glad to see quite a few of you to come out here in the cold of the winter. It would be nicer if we could be in Caracas with thousands and hundreds of thousands and probably millions of people who are pouring in the streets to pay homage to their leader and the father of the revolution. I think I just wanted to. I have, Juan Diego did a really good job in talking about the legacy of Chavez and especially for his own country, reducing poverty and more equality for all Venezuelans and sharing the wealth of oil with and bringing education and housing to the poor barrios and nationalizing some of the big foreign companies, and all that is a great legacy internally. But I think maybe as Central Americans and Latin Americans, today we must reflect on what he did for the whole of the continent and the Americas, and you also talked about that a bit, but I think what he did in general for the left and the idea of socialism in Latin America, the left was in the doldrums basically in the 80s and 90s, and it was the Washington Consensus all over, was the dominant way of thinking in all governments, and it was neoliberalism that ruled supreme. So Chavez really, when he came upon the political scene, really changed all that. He totally revived and re-energized the left all over Latin America and made it possible, really in real terms, to show that there is an alternative to neoliberal capitalism. It's possible to build it with grassroots support from the masses, and with policies that are just and that redistribute wealth. I would like to say a word also as a Canadian here that I was telling some of my friends that I felt really disgusted by what Harper did. His reaction was totally insensitive and even insulting, I think, to the people of Venezuela. So if I could give a message to the people, send a message to the people of Venezuela tonight, I think I'd say, don't listen to Harper. He doesn't represent the majority of Canadians. Chavez represented and still represents the majority, the great masses of Venezuelans. Harper doesn't represent us, the majority of Canadians. And so our message to the people of Venezuela is we are sad, we feel your loss, we stand in solidarity with you and we share your grief. And I think that is this feeling is probably shared by the majority of Canadians tonight.
I'm going to repeat a lot of the things that Juan Diego and Mary France have said, but I think you will probably all agree with me that the accomplishments of this man are worth repeating. I've never been to Venezuela, and I don't speak Spanish. I certainly never have had the pleasure of meeting Hugo Chavez. Yet, in important ways, the life of this extraordinary man has touched mine, as it has so many others around the world. It's true that in terms of his supporters in Venezuela, the poor and the marginalized, as well as those of good conscience from all social classes, who shared and benefited from his vision, that there were tangible results to be seen. Poverty fell for Venezuelans from almost a half to less than 30%. 6 million children receive meals every day. Education spending doubled as a proportion of the GDP, significantly cutting illiteracy. Near universal health care for the first time was made available to all Venezuelans. He provided decent housing for hundreds of thousands of families. He was elected 4 times and did all of this in spite of an attempted military coup in 2002, a hysterically hostile media, and a relentlessly compromising business elite. Regionally, he launched the Bolivarian Revolution and reached out in solidarity to sympathetic local governments in the form of ALBA, Petrocaribe, and UNASUR. In doing so, he stood out as a beacon and as one of the only successful challenges to hegemonic neoliberalism. On the world stage, he opposed free trade agreements, he opposed intervention in Afghanistan, he opposed the invasion of Iraq, and he accurately named these initiatives imperialism. And after George Bush addressed the United Nations, he accurately called him the devil. On a personal level, the very grandeur of Chavez touched my life, as he did so many others who work for justice and peace, by providing solidarity, the belief in new possibilities, and most of all, he provided hope. In a world where justice work in the face of empire can seem to be a dauntless task, he showed that change need not be an illusion, that justice can be achieved, and that another world is not only possible, but is emerging on the horizon to the south. So tonight, along with you, I offer my sympathy to all Venezuelans who share the Bolivarian dream, and also to all those around the world engaged in their own local struggles for justice and peace. Tonight, we are all Venezuelans. Tonight, we are all Chavez. I'm going to try the SOH yet. Hugo Rafael Chavez, free us.
So, Juan Diego started with the theme of being crazy. I think if people saw us today here, they might think, what are those crazy people doing in this winter evening? Especially because not many people know about what is happening in Latin America, or about what is happening with this tremendous loss, not only for Venezuela, but for the entire world. Hugo Chavez, in his government plan, was the only government in the world that has included in his platform concrete measures to protect Mother Earth. He is the only one. So I think that Bernie and Juan Diego and Mary and many of you probably know about some of the achievements that Hugo Chavez has made to improve the democracy in Venezuela. But I think one of the things that I want to say as a member of the Latin American Canadian Solidarity Association, and also as a member of the Farabundo Martí National Liberation Front, a party in El Salvador who fought against the military dictatorships, we want to say that we have learned tremendous lessons from Hugo Chavez. One of them is reclaiming the pride that we as people must have in a democratic process. Many times we have been told that democracy works in such a way that we are only called to participate in it, to vote on a regular, like every 5 years, right? So, but Hugo Chavez in the 1970s, when he was probably some of your age, very young, he entered into the military, and to us, the military for Latin Americans is a symbol of repression. And the reason why there is no democracy in many countries in the world, the higher the military budget, the less funding there is for social programs. So it's a kind of contradiction that Hugo Chavez entered the military, and then from within, he not only went through a process of revolutionizing his own life, but he was the beginning seed that was spread throughout the military in Venezuela. One of the biggest achievements of Hugo Chavez, in the same way that he reclaimed and gave back the pride for the military people, he also empowered the people to reclaim the right place in the democratic process. So people are not now interested in just going to vote. So it's not about having this electoral process based on representation. It is based on collective participation. Now the people feel that Chavez is one leader that will never die. They know that. Chavez is a leader that transcends time and history, and now people feel that they are empowered. Actually, Chavez said, all the changes that have happened in Venezuela is not because of me, of my efforts as a contributor to that change. It is because, some of you were kind of recalling some of the history of Hugo Chavez when he had to face coup that took away his power, and then the people returned him to power. And so the people of Venezuela is the main protagonist, and I think that's a huge change when we, as citizens of any nation, begin to feel that our actions and our collective mobilization really can make things change. And I think that kind of pride in the people being part of the process, I think, is one of the biggest changes that other countries in Latin America have learned from the experience in Venezuela. And I think that is the reason why the U.S. hate him so much, because it's a bad example for everyone else. It's really bad for the U.S. that even Chavez is helping some of the poor in the U.S. to pay for heating things. Right? That's a shameful thing that supposedly the most powerful and richest country cannot even take care of their poor. Right? So Chavez is saying, you know what? Leave us alone. Take care of your poor and leave us alone with our project. We want a revolution. We want to change things. Right? So if anyone, even the rich people can stay there, but as long as they have this social responsibility that you're not there to exploit the resources of our country or countries, but basically to contribute to the collective well-being of people. So as a Salvadorian, I would say I am really grateful for the tremendous lessons that I have learned from this man and the people that surround him. So I think that my plea to you is, first of all, thank you for being here in such a short notice and being here in a day that is not the best. But I think one of the things that we need to do is to remain vigilant of what is happening, of what is going to happen. Because the United States imperialism has never stopped dreaming or even planning to destroy the Bolivarian revolution, because it's spreading. So we have one country in Central America now, Nicaragua is part of that movement. And we hope that El Salvador one day will join that movement.
Ellos no serán bandera para abrazarnos con ella, y el que no la pueda alzar, que abandone la pelea. No es tiempo de recular ni de vivir de leyenda.